Before we get into this special weekend edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. And one more thing, we know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right, orders placed between now and December 25th will have their 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March the 1st, 2025. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. With a big day on Tuesday, Election Day, county election officials across the Carolinas are focusing on the process they put in place to make sure votes are secure and accurate. On today's special episode of Word on the Street, we'll talk with various party and election leaders who have worked hard to make early voting and Tuesday's election safe and fair. Joining us today will be John Balcom, Director of Spartanburg County Registration and Elections. We'll talk about some of the rumors that have been spread on social media about the integrity of the voting machines and the overall process. Curtis Smith, Chairman of the Spartanburg County GOP, talks with us about the role political parties play in the election process. And with all the talk about the electors in the presidential race, who are these people? Who are these electors? Well, they're your friends and neighbors, concerned citizens just like you and me. I'm going to introduce you to one of South Carolina's non-electors, Alexia Newman from Spartanburg. She is the elector from the 4th Congressional District, and she joins us to talk about her role in the presidential election process. Remember, today is the final day of early voting. Polls are open until 6 o'clock. They close at 3 p.m. in North Carolina. So today, Saturday, is the last day of early voting. The voting process is important. It determines who leads our government at all levels, local, state, federal, of course. A lot of the focus, of course, is on the presidential race, but we have to be cognizant of those local races like school board, county council, city council, members of the South Carolina legislature. They're all important, and it's why it's important that you cast your vote. So if you haven't voted yet, please do so. And of course, if you miss early voting, you can always go and vote on Tuesday, the actual election day. You know, we have to have confidence in our process, and that can be a challenge these days with the social media misinformation, disinformation, whatever you call it. Today, I hope to ease your mind a bit and give you the confidence that your vote really counts. And yes, when human beings are involved, there's always a possibility of some bad people doing stupid things. But overall, I believe our elections are safe and secure. Conway Belangia, the director of the Greenville County Elections and Voter Registration, talked with WYFF News 4 this week about how he and his colleagues in the voter registration offices have worked hard to earn the trust of the voters and the procedures in place to make sure that all votes are counted accurately and securely. He reminds us, the people running the polls, they're our friends and our neighbors.
All of the rhetoric that has been prevalent for 4 years has thrown a doubt in the election process by voters. We use encrypted thumb drives. We use encrypted telecommunication whenever we need to do that for voter registration. Everybody who's voting is doubting not only the process, they're doubting the people who are running the election. And these are friends and neighbors.
And that is a good reminder that the people that you see in these polling places, they are our friends and our neighbors. If you have voted in a particular precinct for years, you may know some of the poll workers. Belangia said that over 100,000 Greenville County voters cast their ballots early, about 30% of the turnout. And we've seen this type of turnout all around the state, all around the country, actually, of early voting. People have embraced early voting. I must say, I voted early this year. I ask you, should I? I asked my listeners of Sunrise, Carolina. By the way, if you're not listening to Sunrise, Carolina, tune in every weekday at 5 a.m. For your first cup of coffee. Likewise, in Henderson County, North Carolina, election officials say that their county is on a record-breaking pace for early voting turnout there, too. County Election Director Aaron Troutman also spoke with News 4 WYFF, said the county keeps two people to transport anything that involves counting votes and that there is a clear chain of custody that ensures the integrity of ballots in every county. He explained that when it's time to remove ballots from boxes, 2 people from each party will take the ballots and sort them by day. He said all ballots are kept in a secure location with no windows or connectivity to the internet.
All transport of ballots, all transport of election data, anything that could revolve around the tabulation of votes or the ballots themselves, we ensure they're being accounted for. We're taking every step possible to ensure the fairness and accuracy of the election.
And this is all important to know for us to trust the process, for us to trust the outcome when those returns start coming in next week. Both Mr. Troutman and Mr. Belangia said that none of the machines that generate ballots are connected to the internet. That's important to know. And we're going to talk to Spartanburg Director of Elections, John Balcom, more about this later in today's show, because quite often we hear this. We hear about the possibility of Chinese and Russians hacking our voting machines. The voting machines are not connected to the internet. You have a paper ballot that you complete, and that is an electronic device, but it's not connected to the internet. You feed that paper ballot into the tabulator, and it stores it until they're counted. And those paper ballots are a backup just in case. It appears so far that there's been minimal issues in voting in South Carolina and North Carolina. I spoke with South Carolina GOP Chairman Drew McKissick about any issues that have been reported to the Republican Party in South Carolina. He says during the past 2 weeks of early voting, the problems have been minimal.
As far as the polling places are concerned, complaints or problems have been at a minimum around the state. Small things here and there. There's a change in the law versus before 2 years ago in terms of how far away people need to be for campaign activity around the precinct locations. It used to be the law was 200 feet. When the election integrity law was updated, it became 500 feet. Everybody's not aware of that, and people sometimes have to move signs further out or get further away if they're handing out pamphlets and things of that nature. So sometimes a little confusion around that, but nothing major so far when it comes to the actual process that we're using and how that's running. Biggest thing that we've seen has been what we reported in terms of Marion County and potential ballot harvesting over in that area, and SLED is now investigating that.
Again, early voting ending this weekend. If you don't make it to the polls, then plan to carve out some time on Tuesday to cast your vote, because it's so important that we do that. Who's going to win? Text me your predictions of the final results. You can email me, Joey at joeyhudson.com, and you can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. And remember to always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com and place your order. The standard MyPillow still only $14.88 when you use promo code Joey. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett told me on Thursday she believes it's a simple question. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
So just ask yourself one question. Were you better off 4 years ago than you are today? In the height of COVID, when it first hit us, we were still better off. And he's got a plan, and he's brought a coalition of people together. When did you think you would see a Kennedy on the stage with a Republican, and Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk and Brett Favre? I mean, and I think a telling sign over the past week is Jeff Bezos really putting the stop to the Washington Post, endorsing a candidate, which they have endorsed a Democrat candidate forever.
Yes, for decades.
So you're seeing people either stand up and say, "Listen, I'm not going to say I'm with them, but I'm not going to endorse the other person either." And I think that's a huge testament to President Trump and the fact he has created a diverse coalition. And sometimes we look at diversity like it's a bad word anymore, right? Because of DEI and all these things that are like trigger words. But he has created a diverse coalition of, uniquely minded people who have different views. And, that's what this country was founded on, is everybody letting their views be heard so we could get the best possible solution together.
Yep.
He's gone back to our roots, right? Our basic principles.
Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Over the next few days, all we're going to be hearing about is the Electoral College. And, of course, on election night, that's what the big board always has, the states broken down and how many electoral votes they have. Over the past couple of weeks, people in South Carolina have been participating in early voting. And we've seen record numbers show up to cast their vote for the next president of the United States. And while voters are choosing who they'd like to lead our country over the next 4 years, they're actually voting for a slate of electors whose vote is what really determines the winner of the presidential race. When I did a quick search for a definition of what an elector is, I came up with this. Electors are key figures in the U.S. electoral process, directly casting the votes that elect the president. So who are these mysterious electors that we hear so much about? On our guest line today, Alexia Newman, who is actually one of 9 Republican electors. Welcome, Alexia. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
It's always a pleasure. So let's just start with the process. How did you become an elector?
Well, we had our South Carolina Republican Party Executive Committee meeting, and since I'm the executive committeeman from Spartanburg County, I was there, and so I had been getting emails and texts from people all over the state. We're elected as from congressional districts, and so I hadn't even thought about running. But when we got there, and we divided up into the caucuses, I was nominated to run, and along with probably 7 or 8 other people, and so I ran and I won.
Well, good for you. Had you ever thought about being an elector before?
No, I had not. But people were kind enough to nominate me, and I thought, well, I'll run. I won't win, but I'll run.
Yep.
And lo and behold, I won.
That has to be a sort of a pretty neat feeling to know that, first off, you're casting your vote for the party nominee when you go to a polling place. Have you early voted? Have you already voted?
I'm voting today.
Voting today. Okay. Well,
and you and Charlie talked me into that.
Well, I love election day, and that's sort of been my tradition. I think Charlie's the same way, but I kind of put the question out there to listeners, and listeners said, you need to go ahead and bank your vote. You need to get in and vote. But now, the reasons that they were giving me, it kind of had me a little depressed. One guy had me being hit by a bus. Another guy had me, getting sick and not being able to go. I thought, surely none of that's going to happen. But just in case, I'm going to go vote. And so, but it was actually a great experience, and I think South Carolina, based on the numbers, have embraced early voting.
I tell you, Spartanburg County has. We have having just lines of people wanting to cast their vote. And, being in the Electoral College, I mean, for me, it's just such an honor, just an unexpected honor. And so I'm really excited about doing that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So walk us through what happens next. So election day comes and Donald Trump wins. What do you do next as an elector?
Okay, the Secretary of State will call us to Columbia, and that's going to be December 17th at 10 o'clock. And we will meet in the Blight building, and we'll be sworn in. And then we will actually cast our ballots. And it's not a secret ballot. We'll have to say who we're voting for, that we're voting for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a real long process. I've already signed some paperwork, but I understand there'll be more. But it's, it's a pretty, I think, a kind of a quick process, but very, I don't know, to me, for me, it'll be historic.
Of course.
And just such a privilege that people thought enough of me to elect me, but then I get to cast my vote for who I think is going to be a tremendous president for our United States.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of getting to vote twice here, Alexa, because you cast your ballot and then you get to vote again. And of course, both votes count, but the electoral vote really counts.
Right. I've always loved civics and just the whole, of course, the election process, and then and have known about the Electoral College, and you just think, who are these people?
Yes.
That are electing our president, and to actually be one, it's just an honor and a privilege. And I don't know, I'm very excited and very overwhelmed and humbled.
Yep. Yes, that would be very exciting. With us today, Alexia Newman, one of 9 electors for the South Carolina Republican Party in South Carolina. So you mentioned something just a minute ago. What would happen if you got to the meeting on December 17th and you decided that you weren't going to cast your vote for the person, in this case, Donald Trump, who wins South Carolina?
I would be jailed.
Really? I mean,
yes.
You would be breaking South Carolina law if you chose to do otherwise.
Exactly.
Interesting.
I know, isn't it?
Yes. Well, what a great honor for you, and it just shows your leadership within the South Carolina Republican Party, and I'm happy for you. And one final question.
Thank you.
So, will it just be the electors in the room, or can there be spectators?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I know one thing. It's a frock op for me. It's an opportunity to buy a new outfit.
Oh, well, good for you. Well, Alexia Newman, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And you'll have to send me a picture now of what that outfit is. I want a picture of you casting your vote on December the 17th.
I will be sure you get one, my friend. I need to call your wife because I think she's the sharpest dresser.
Well, you and
to ask her what she would wear.
You and Peg can go shopping together. Alexa, thank you for your time today.
Sure.
Yeah. As we continue today's show, so what role does local political parties play in Tuesday's election? Curtis Smith, chairman of the Spartanburg County Republican Party, joins us up next. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. This year, I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD Weight Loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD Weight Loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part, PhD Weight Loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD Weight Loss Program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Continuing the special 2024 election edition of Word on the Street, you know, parties play a big role in elections and particularly in presidential years. On our guest line today, chairman of the Spartanburg County Republican Party, Curtis Smith. Welcome. How are you?
Good morning, Joey, and how are you?
I am wonderful. So we are down to the wire here now. Let's talk a minute about what's going to be taking place on Tuesday. Of course, early voting behind us, record turnout. What role does the party play on Election Day?
Well, it starts off when we certified the candidates last June for the November election. And didn't we help recruit all the poll workers, poll managers, poll clerks, so that we can have people working the polls that are Republicans? Everybody talks about the fact that we want poll watchers. But it is my opinion that if we actually have the workers as Republicans at all the precincts, we work out much better. Anyway, our job is to get the poll watchers at each one of the precincts. We've had poll watchers at all of our early voting sites. And everything's reported as doing well. Now, what we're doing during the early voting and on Election Day, we answer questions. I mean, the phone is constantly ringing with people who said, I just voted or I have a question. They all want to talk about the ballot is up, the ballot is down. They all want to talk about, where do I get to vote? Why was things happening this way? There's a lot of questions that come in. And we're actually helping the public by answering all these questions. They will call us instead of calling the election center where a lot of other activity is going on.
If you would, take a minute, Curtis, to just distinguish a poll watcher versus a poll worker.
Yes, once you're trained to be the poll worker, you actually be the manager, the clerk, you check people in, and you actually watch the voting, how everything works. The poll watcher sits there and monitors what's going on, doesn't talk to the people who are voting. They can only talk to the poll clerk who's running the poll. So if you see something wrong, someone's wearing a T-shirt they shouldn't be wearing, or you think something's wrong with an address or something, you have to take it to the poll clerk. If you're the poll worker, you're the one sitting there. You're going to address the issue immediately. You're the one that knows the procedures. You're the ones that have gone through the day of training that you can actually answer all these questions. So it's much better to have the 108 election sites have Republicans be poll workers.
Yep. And the poll worker is actually employed by the county, correct?
That's correct. You're paid for the day for the 12 hours. You get there, before 7 o'clock, set the equipment up, and you're there at the end where you take all the equipment back apart and take it back downtown. But you're the one who's watching all the activities. You're actually doing it. And I would much rather have our people running the polls and instead of just sitting there watching it, because you can actually make an action happen quickly if you're the poll worker.
Yeah. Let's talk a minute now. And with me today, Curtis Smith, chairman of the Spartanburg County Republican Party. In relationship to poll watchers, these are volunteers whom you have appointed, and the party does some training with those. What are things that they're looking for?
Well, what they want to make sure of is that the 500 feet where all the signs are up, where people aren't campaigning while they're at the polls. You do not want to have people told who to vote for. So you're just watching what's going on. Am I wearing something? Are the addresses that they're asking when the person takes their driver's license, say, do you live at this? No, they're actually matching that the person gets their ballot, that they go through, that it is scanned. You're allowed to look at the numbers, keep track of how many are voting. And then if you see something wrong, if you see something questioned, you talk to the poll clerk. The clerk is the one running the poll there. And if you don't like that, you have my phone number and you have the Election Commission's phone number, stuff that you can call and get us to look into something. But there again, you're the poll watcher. All you are is monitoring what's going on there.
Yep. If someone who is standing in line waiting to vote, if they see something suspicious, what should they do?
Well, if they see something suspicious, they should call. First of all, anybody can bring it up with the poll clerk.
Yeah.
Anyone can say, hey, I saw this, and tell the poll clerk. And then the poll clerk will look at it. The poll clerk is responsible for it. I get lots of calls from people who have said, I have just voted and I saw, and then they'll tell me the story. And I will explain to them that, well, that person is an American citizen. The person that you saw was speaking English. You might think they have a foreign accent and that they're not citizens, but they're on our voting rolls. If you have a concern that you absolutely know something, then the call, but we'll take an action on it. But people do call all the time with all kinds of questions. You get that preconceived idea in their head that it should be a South Carolinian who looks like a South Carolinian in voting, and sometimes that's not the case.
Yep. Spartanburg County Chairman of the GOP, Curtis Smith, with us today. All right, so in addition to the candidates that people are finding on the ballot, there's also a constitutional amendment. It's basically changing, as I understand it, a single word in the state constitution to specify that only U.S. citizens can vote. Give us the history on this and why it's necessary.
Well, what's important is our Constitution, the language in our Constitution, it says that the people should be, citizens of South Carolina and the United States is there. But courts have ruled in other states with that language that some municipalities can say, oh, well, for a school board election, they don't necessarily have to be just citizens. They can be residents. They can be here and vote. And so we have several, California, New York, these states. So we've decided the best thing to do is to preempt this. Let's change the word so there is no question. You must be. They have to be. They shall be a citizen to vote. So, any of our elections, and that's why the word is being changed. So the interpretation cannot be taken by a court that says, oh, that's the ground. You can build upon it. And that's what they've done in other states. And it was very good of our legislature that I think almost unanimously passed this thing. We should get every voter who wants to do it to say yes, vote yes on that, to change our Constitution.
Yes. One final thing here, Curtis, talk with us about it. I know you've been out for the last couple weeks during early voting. You've had your watchers out. Anything, any major issues, anything that is unusual? And what about the turnout? I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about turnout. Would you say that we've seen record numbers of people show up in early voting?
Yes, we have. When I did the auditorium in 2020 election, we had about 42,000 people turn up and vote early. We're going to break 80,000 turn out in this one. And we have about 6,000 absentee ballots. So I'm expecting somewhere around 175,000 of our 210,000 registered voters to vote. So we'll have close to half of the election over on Saturday night.
Wow. Does that surprise you? Did you expect that?
Yes. No, I was expecting between 30 and 35, maybe 40% tops. But the system is running so good. The wait times around lunch can be an hour, but most of the time it's about 20 minutes. You'll see a long line, but they move quickly. And even the curbside is moving fast. So, people get there and they go, oh, my God, there's 100 people in line. But that line moves. We have the equipment and the people. I think the commission put in like 44 workers in our 4 locations. So we have a lot of the poll book people and we have a lot of the machines there.
Yep. Curtis Smith, always a pleasure. I know you'll be busy on Election Day. Thank you for what you do. And we'll catch up after.
Should I just make sure we've got a watch party for Spartanburg County? We're taking over the city of Inman. We'll be at Holiday Brewer there, and it's a great party. You can come in and listen to the new elected officials because we're going to have 6 or 7 of them there to speak.
There you go. Curtis, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
You got it.
Like previous election years, there's been all types of information, misinformation, disinformation about voting machines, what they do, what they can't do. Up next, John Balcom, director of the Spartanburg County Registration and Elections, answers our questions. What's true? What's not? That's coming up next. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. You've seen the post on Facebook, probably had some friends tell you about the machine that changed their vote, or the ballot was fed in upside down so their vote didn't count. So I thought it was time that we got some real answers to these types of questions. On our guest line today, John Balcom, director of Spartanburg County Registration and Elections. Welcome. I guess you've been kind of busy these past few weeks, huh?
Yes, it's been really busy, but it's wonderful to see all these voters turning out to vote early.
Yeah. We, of course, wrapping up early voting. Reports are that we've had record numbers. What are your thoughts on what you've seen these past couple of weeks?
Well, what I've seen, voters love early voting. The convenience is a big selling factor, and it has certainly not hurt that we've had great weather for them to come out. It hasn't been cold and it hasn't been wet. So this strong turnout it was unprecedented.
Yeah.
This being our first presidential election with no excuse early voting, it has just been phenomenal, the response.
John, I traditionally love to vote on Election Day. I have my routine. I go by my breakfast restaurant, grab breakfast, have coffee, then I go vote. Then I typically will go around and check out some other polling places, that type of thing. This year, I was kind of torn as to whether or not I would vote on Election Day, and so I kind of put it out to my listeners. And everyone encouraged me to vote early, so I did. For the first time, I voted early, and you're right. And it was interesting to talk to people at the polling place that day. Everyone was just talking about the convenience, and they could do it. They had that 2-week window to really just work it into their schedule, not be rushed around on one particular day.
Exactly. It's an opportunity to make voting fit into your schedule instead of make your schedule fit voting.
Exactly. So have there been any major issues? I mean, obviously, election integrity is one of those issues that's top of mind among voters, has been for the past few cycles. Any major issues that you've identified this year?
We have not seen any major issues. Of course, we've been doing election integrity before everyone was talking about it, because that is the core of conducting a successful election, is that you have an election that is safe, secure, fair, and unbiased, so that the people can trust that the results are reported reflecting their ballots as they intended them to be. So we've been doing that for decades.
Yeah.
And the issues that we have seen have not been so much election integrity related issues as the issues we see are people who have had issues with their registration or updating their address here at the last minute as they come in to vote. And of course, that's it's unfortunate for them because it does slow their process down. But those are the biggest issues that we've seen out of this. Voters here have really been very cordial with us.
Yeah. Yeah. With us today, John Balcom. He's director of Spartanburg County Registration and Elections. Let's just go through some of the questions that I get sometimes from listeners. They text me, they email me, and some of the things that people have brought my attention to on social media. For example, in relationship to scanning of the ballots, there have been concerns about whether a ballot is scanned upside down and if it counts. Do the machines scan both sides of the ballot, and is it possible that a ballot can be scanned improperly and not be counted?
Yeah, so there is no way for it to scan a ballot improperly. The ballot scanner is a duplex scanner, so it scans both sides of every ballot card that goes in. I know the animation on the screen has always shown the ballot going in face up so that it's clear what you're looking at. Our workers tell people to put their ballots face down for privacy so that the scanner monitor can't see how the voter voted. But either way, it scans the ballot on both sides. And when we test the election, we actually test the scanners with ballots face up and face down and inserting them header first and footer first. And it makes no difference what orientation the ballot's placed in the scanner. It scans it and counts the vote the same either way.
Yep. And once that ballot goes into the scanner, what happens to it then? Is it just held in that container?
So once the ballot goes into the scanner, it goes through the back, it routes down, and there is a ballot bin in the base of the scanner. And every day, those ballots must be returned to this office so that we can secure them. So we secure the ballots daily in our central repository here. And that puts them under lock and key and seal with chain of custody logs representing that ballot's path from the voter to the bin at the EVC, the early voting center, and then here at this office.
Yep. John Balcom is with me today. He's director of Spartanburg County Registration and Elections. Okay, the other question I get quite often, John, of course, people are concerned about the potential hacking of the machines. It's my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, the machines are really not connected to the internet, correct?
That is correct. Our voting system is not connected to the internet. Some voters are concerned because we have poll books used to check in voters, which are connected to the internet. And that is so that any voter who goes to an early voting center to vote is able to conduct their full service at the early voting satellite locations the same as they would be here at our office. So if they need to update their address and vote, they can update their address at the early voting satellite location at one of the libraries, and then we can get a call and put their new information into the poll book management system and push that out to that poll book so that they can be checked in and receive a correct ballot style right there. It's for their convenience. But the voting system itself, which consists of our election management computers here at our office, plus the ballot marking devices, which are the big touch screens that voters make their selections on, and then the ballot scanners, those are completely offline.
Yep. Yeah. One final question along the lines of the machines, John. I've had a couple of listeners who have texted me and said, well, the machine changed my vote. What could they possibly be talking about, and is that even possible?
So we hear this from voters from time to time, and the most important part of this to point out is this system that we use statewide in South Carolina produces a voter-verified paper trail. So any voter who marks their ballot and reviews their selections on the screen has the opportunity to go back and correct anything that is not what they want it to be. Once that ballot prints, they should review that printed paper ballot to ensure that it reflects the selections they intended before they put it in the scanner. If anything's not right, they can get a poll worker's attention and have a new ballot card reissued. They should be placed on a different ballot marking device so that they can vote a ballot, mark a ballot, and scan a ballot that reflects their intended selections. Now, when I see reports where someone's selecting A, but B, when someone's touching A, but B selects, what we do when that voter reports it, one of our workers or one of my technicians will go verify the calibration on that machine, because while this system's 5 years old, it takes a few years for a system to make it through the test labs to become certified for use in elections. So the system's 5 years old. The technology being used is closer to 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
These screens being electronic devices, with all the use they see, occasionally they go out of calibration. And we can go in, verify that it's out of calibration, take it out of service until we do it, and then recalibrate that screen and ensure that it's registering the touches exactly where the finger touches the screen.
Yeah.
The other thing that we sometimes see is voters go in and maybe their hands are a little shaky and they have to rest a knuckle or rest another finger on the screen to steady the finger they're making selections with. Or maybe they have long fingernails that touch the screen with the pad of their finger as well. If that screen is touched in two places, it doesn't know what the intended touch point is. It just registers the last touch point. So that's why I say we have to verify that it's a calibration issue and not a user issue when we get reports of this. But we take all of these reports very seriously because we don't want voters to have issues marking their ballot as they intend.
Right. And I guess the bottom line here, John, is if there is a question, you have someone that's what the poll managers are there for, to answer those questions and to make sure that their vote is tabulated correctly. So, John Balcom, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for what you do. I know it's a busy time for you, so I'm going to let you go, but I appreciate what you do, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, Joey. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Have a great day.
You too. That's it for today's show. Polls are open until 6 o'clock this afternoon. You can still early vote. Otherwise, we'll see you at the polls on Tuesday. Be sure and vote, folks. It's very important that you vote, that you take your friends, your family, your church friends. Everybody you know needs to vote. Have a great rest of your weekend. That's it for this special weekend edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.